Hi everyone, I'm Ali GREYMOND. Today I wanted to answer a question, is OCD genetic? This is a question I get asked a lot. Based on my experience of talking to people every day for the last 10 years, based on everything I see online, based on comments below my videos, I can tell you that OCD can be genetic, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. For example, in my life, I was the only one in my family who's had OCD. I see this a lot with clients where they're the only one in their family dealing with OCD. And at the same time, I see a lot of clients who, I wouldn't say actually a lot, in terms of percentage out of all my clients, how many people have people in their family who also have OCD. And by having OCD, I mean have actual clear OCD, whether they were diagnosed or not, but it is obvious that they have OCD because, there's no such thing as a person who's completely normal. We all have little triggers, little things, but when it becomes to the extreme, that's when people refer to it as OCD. So if a person, for example, say if they check the stove before leaving, right? But it's like very, very mild. Okay, well, everybody kind of checks the stove. Okay, what if the person checks the stove, but they never use the stove? Okay, that's kind of a little bit, but what if the person checks the stove 10 times and they haven't used it? Okay, now this is an OCD thing, right? So a lot of these things are kind of levels, and this is an important distinction when we're talking about family members with OCD, because sometimes family members can have these kind of obsessive tendencies to check, tendencies to ruminate, but it never actually materialized into a full-on OCD. It just kind of stayed, mild, very mild. So it's very, very difficult to actually say how many people have family members who actually have full OCD, and, because you don't really know what's going through the other people's mind if it's not that serious. It's not, even with OCD, a lot of the times you can't tell if the person has OCD unless they tell you, which is, by the time they tell you, it's pretty extreme already most of the time, right? So it's hard to kind of know for sure, but I can tell you I see both sides of the situation. So if you have OCD and somebody in your family has OCD as well, that doesn't mean that everybody else is the same way. Or if you're the only one who's, nobody else in the family has OCD, again, same thing. It doesn't mean everybody is the same way. OCD can also be caused by health conditions. So a lot, for example, getting Lyme is one of them. There's a bunch of different ones. There was a theory. I don't know how much they've proven that, but if kids have strep throat when they're little, later on they have more likelihood of developing OCD. Also, PTSD can post trauma, right? You can get OCD. So there's a lot of different factors that can contribute to getting OCD, and it doesn't mean that it's only one way or another. So that's kind of the best answer I can give you in terms of if you're a parent and you worry, what if my children will get OCD? I would say that this is something you definitely don't have to worry about. If they get OCD, the best thing you can do is have the information, because look at it this way: if you would have had the information that you, through my channels, through other people's channels, that you now know, it would have never gotten to this point. Because you can see, oh, okay, say, I don't know, harm OCD. Oh, okay, yeah, thousands of people, or, probably millions of people have this. I'm disregarding, I'm moving on. Yeah, tell me all the scary thoughts. But if you don't know what it is, you've never heard of it, it's just, oh my God, how can I possibly have this thought? This is, it becomes something else. You start to think of it as a real thing because you don't know that OCD can manifest like that. So information in this situation is extremely important. And if you see that your child has times when they're clearly overthinking things, or they're doing things in a repetitive, like as a pattern, over and over again, and in those cases, try to explain to them how ERP works. and you can feel better if you can just try to push a little bit, and then you'll see that it's actually not that scary. Let's just try it, right? It's for children, a lot of it has to do with what if something happens to their parents? If I do this, if I step on a crack on the pavement, something bad will happen to my parents. So they avoid, right? So, and then this is how these kind of behaviors continue. So if you teach them, well, let's just try it and let's see if anything happens in the week. Let's see if anything happens in a month. Oh, did nothing happen? Okay, let's try a little bit more. You know what I mean? Kind of push them as far, when I talk to kids, because I talk to both kids and adults, and when I talk to kids, the recovery process is much slower because you can't really push a kid that much, right? Because they're very, very sensitive. But you can push them just a little bit to do the recovery work, and kind of little by little they'll come out of it, So that's just a side note. I just want to talk about it for a second if you are in the situation of having a child who's experiencing that. But overall, considering how much information you have on it, that's not something you have to worry about. In terms of yourself, how you got OCD, why you got OCD, it really doesn't matter. I see people from all walks of life, in all kinds of careers, from all kinds of backgrounds, PTSD situations, extremely, great childhood, extremely terrible childhoods. Doesn't matter, really, because if it's not a bad situation that triggers OCD, then it's a good situation that's stressful triggers OCD, such as a trip, finishing school, starting school, getting married, having a baby. All of those things can easily trigger OCD. So don't look at it that it was one specific thing that caused OCD, and if this thing didn't happen, I would have never gotten OCD. That's just simply not true. In that moment, you might have not got OCD, but it would have happened later when something else stressful happened, because your brain was kind of at its limit. Whether you realized it or not, it was already at its limit, and any kind of stressor just would have taken it over the edge at some point, and as you go. I hope you find my videos helpful. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. If you would like to do one-on-one recovery program with me, all the information is as always on youhaveocd.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.